Hey guys, Tomboy601, and welcome back to our third episode of Admirals Academy, our series where we dive into the nitty-gritty of World of Warships Legends. Today's episode is going to be about best ships to start out with, or at least ships in the early game. And how I'm defining the early game is, well, I don't count tier 1, I don't count the first level, but tiers 2 through 4 I consider early game. Tiers 5 and 6 I consider the mid game, and when you're grinding and playing ships consistently up in tier 7, tier 8, and legendary, I consider that the end game. So today we're talking about the best ships to start out with grinding when you're in the early stages of your World of Warships Legends career. And well, we're gonna have a couple that are probably easy ones that you guess, or lines that you're like, oh yeah, those are the default lines. But I think we'll have a couple of surprises in here because you know, I think we get very much defaulted to everyone goes, okay, you just totally just start out with all the American ships. They're the easiest to play. They teach you the fundamentals. Just go. And I feel like that's the default answer, and that's going to be my answer actually for the story. So let's just kick this off. As far as what line you should start grinding if you're interested in destroyers, you want to learn how to play them, is the American line. You could, I think the other popular answer is the Japanese, which have torpedo boats, but I think it's more important to learn gunboating before you get into torpedo boating. Gunboat, you at least stand a chance when you get spotted and you're able to engage other surface ships. I think if you don't understand the flow and you're not learning how matches usually give and take and flow, you're setting yourself up for a lot of failure when you're just going out there in a torpedo boat, right? I think you need to learn the way the game kind of flows, and you do that best in a gunboat. You're able to get out, engage people, find the spots that you can kind of hide in, be able to defend yourselves with torpedoes. One of the downsides to the American boats is they don't have stealth fire torpedoes in these early tiers. They kind of match the detectability range, so if a ship is pushing into you, you're able to stealth torpedo them. But if they are not pushing into you, then you are kind of charging them with the torpedoes. But I think the American boats offer a great way. One, you're always going to be the king of killing other destroyers, and that's one of the big roles of a destroyer, is being able to outspot and find your counterparts out there and be able to provide distraction and be able to provide that spotting. That's kind of one of your main roles. And I think the American gunboats do a very good job of getting those skills into people's heads, getting the ability to get in there, get hands-on with the destroyers, being able to master the basics of destroyers and still have a ton of fun in them. And that's really the other important thing about this, is being able to learn and have fun with these boats. So American gunboats, the American line, that's my pick for destroyers as far as what is the first line you should start grinding. Now, as far as our battleships, moving on to the battleships, well, I know a lot of people are probably going to say American, but my pick is going to be the Japanese. Now, I know what you're saying. You're like, Tommy, really? The Japanese? Yeah, I think they're a fantastic beginner-friendly style of battleship, and they set you up really well for the later tiers as well. One, the Japanese battleships tend to have some of the biggest guns at the tier, if not the biggest guns. They tend to always be in the upper threshold of size, which is always nice. The other thing that is really nice about them is, well, they have pretty standard layouts from the beginning. One of the things that I think is hard for people to grasp is the wonkiness of the lower tier battleships. I think because they are 4 guns, it incentivizes newer players to go full broadside and just do that, where the Japanese battleships have fantastic firing angles. If you can master them early on, they also tend to be able to have great rear firing angles. So if they can learn how to get those turns in, angle correctly from the rear, they are setting themselves up very well for the rest of the game as far as learning angling. Also, the guns tend to be accurate enough, and also the battleships tend to be relatively quick, so they're not kind of penalized like they are if you kind of take out the American ships. Those tend to be lumbering, slow monstrosities, where if you're not positioning correctly, you take yourself out of the match for a long time. With the Japanese ships, you're able, even if you make that positioning error, you still have the higher speed to be able to rejoin the battle with relative efficiency. So yeah, that's why my pick for the first battleship line you should grind to get your teeth into battleships, it's going to end up being the Japanese. And then the final ships that I recommend going in and giving a go for the cruisers, it's going to be the French cruisers. One, I think they might be a tad overpowered down in the bottom tiers, but they make for fantastic learning ships. They are just absolutely a ton of fun, and they get you in to what a cruiser is all about, right? Cruisers are all about being on that knife edge, being about that DPM, and that is what French cruisers are, especially at the lower tiers. French AP is beautiful, and it hits when you can get a broadside, and that's something people need to learn, is not just to fire the HE, because yes, they have a decent fire chance, but being able to Citadel folks who make mistakes, absolutely beautiful. The next thing that the French cruisers do is they are fast. They are wonderfully fast. They let you reposition. They let you get to spots where you're able to take advantage of that speed in your guns and your firepower fantastically. That's the next bit. And then the final thing that the French cruisers have is really good armor. Like, not traditional armor, but they do have that French spaced armor, which means they tend to be a bit more forgiving than any other cruisers at the tier. So if you're starting out with cruisers, I think the French cruisers are the best way to go. Now, I know in the second episode we talked about commanders and how it's probably smart to start off with boats as you get the commanders, and of course, if you get these commanders, absolutely start going down these lines, but don't be afraid to play around with ships from other lines with the commanders as you get them week by week. But yeah, these three lines I think are the best beginner-friendly lines that also will ease you into the game mechanics, and you'll have fun playing along the way, especially in the early game. Because yeah, I just think they are the standout lines to at least attempt to kind of dig your teeth into. But what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments below. Do you think there's a better beginner lines? Put those down in the comments. And as always, guys, if you like the video, go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. See ya.